Welcome to the Village of Scotia, a bustling village on the Mohawk River in Schenectady County, New York. As you drive over the Western Gateway Bridge, you enter the village and are immediately welcomed by beautiful Collins Park, the jewel of the village, with ball fields, playgrounds, a public beach, and an outdoor amphitheater providing free entertainment to more than 50,000 visitors each year. On the edge of the park is the Old Glen House, built in 1730 and now home to the Scotia branch of the Schenectady County Public Library System. Across the street is Jumping Jack's Drive-In, home of the famous Jack Burger, and host to the U.S. water ski team, providing weekly shows to tens of thousands of spectators all summer long. As you continue down Mohawk Avenue, you will enter the heart of downtown Scotia. Schenectady County, in partnership with the village, has been working hard to create a vibrant, walkable downtown community that includes Village Hall and our police and fire stations. Downtown Scotia has a movie theater, an appliance store, a bank, and a paint store. There is also a grocery store, a drugstore, a tropical fish store, a bowling alley, a coffee shop, and numerous restaurants. Everything you need is within walking distance, including the centerpiece of it all, our post office.
I'm Susan Savage, Chair of the County Legislature, and joining me today is Congressman Tonko.
It's a pleasure to be here with Susan as we talk about some of the impacts of the post office here in Scotia on Mohawk Avenue, on the main street of the village, and the important role that it plays in the quality of life of the residents of Scotia, the town of Glenville, and perhaps even beyond that.
The other evening we participated in a public hearing, and some of the things that we heard at the hearing are things that we hear while we're on the street in Scotia as well. That this is very much a part of the community, and it's an integral part of our main street, which in Scotia is Mohawk Avenue.
Yeah, it's this cluster of activity here in Scotia is kind of the full agenda for the average family. You have church along the main street. You have a pharmacy. You have the grocery store. You have retail. You have the gas station. You have all sorts of opportunities for people to mingle and to accomplish what their day's activities are, with their agenda being accomplished by having the post office in the midst of all of that activity, which I think is a valuable asset for those who require the post office.
In addition to that, across the street there's a beauty shop, there's a liquor store. Our county library, which is also a historic building, is at the gateway to the village, as is Collins Park. It's a great village. It's a village that's on the rebound, and one of the things we've been working toward in the county legislature is ensuring that we have walkable, livable communities. And many seniors especially have told me that the reason that they chose to live in the village is because they could access all of these services, including the post office, right on Mohawk Avenue.
And I think those livable communities, Susan, are what it's all about. The sustainable notion, especially when you look at the energy quotient that's introduced into some of the planning, to encourage people to come into hubs of communities where you're not jumping in a car, perhaps.
Right.
Here you can, obviously there's enough parking space here so that you can utilize the post office if you've driven by or you're driving to do a number of things here in the village, but you can also walk to this location, which is very good for the plan, for the energy plan that we need to embrace, where people are green in their thinking, where we green up that thinking and we do these sorts of things where you avoid getting into a vehicle and instead have pedestrian traffic in your community. There is tons of pedestrian traffic as we stand here today.
Okay.
We're joined by Janice, and Janice is a fan of a walkable community. Tell us why that's so
Yes,
important.
I am. I've lived in this community now for almost 40 years, and it's such a difference. My husband's from Burnt Hills, and there is no center, there is no village of Burnt Hills. There is a village in Scotia. We have wonderful events here. And you know, when you come to the post office, you don't just come to the post office, you go to the various markets and stores and here. So you are supporting the economic foundation of this village by coming to the post office. If it is closed, the business goes elsewhere. That's how people are today. So you need to keep it.
Janice, more and more the thinking is turning into what you just described because of the energy crisis and the energy crunch, and the consciousness of people now to be less gluttonous about their energy use.
Absolutely.
They're making decisions to come into the clusters of communities.
That's right.
This village is wholesome. It has so many
Oh, my
offerings, so
goodness,
many
yes.
options that are needed
Yes.
by the people. And a post office would certainly be on that list.
A post office is on that list. It's the reason you have to come that day to mail that letter, that package. And in doing so, then you touch on the other businesses. Our kids now are 30 years old and they've lived in the village and they've come to appreciate the fact that everything is here. As they have been to other places that are spread out and you have to go by car. Here you can walk.
You know, I live here in the village. I have a business, small business, and I've always used the Postal Service for international shipping because they beat their competitors price-wise for international packages. And the convenience of having the post office here in town has meant that it's easy, you know, it's convenient for me to do that, but it's also business, frankly, for the post office they wouldn't otherwise get if they were out of this sort of convenient, you know, sphere for me. If it turns out that they move, you know, what the only real option I have is to take my business elsewhere to some of the more convenient outlets that will be closer than the post office will be. I don't want to have to drive to Glenville. I ship probably half a dozen international packages a week out of this post office.
So there's an
Well, I think this post office is important to the village of Scotia and to the residents, and it really stretches beyond that because I don't live in the village. I live up Sacandaga Road in the suburbs of Scotia. But I mean, this is our post office. For us to have to go somewhere else is going to be added cost for us every time we want to go to the post office. Well, I think there's a resurgence in Scotia and in Schenectady County, and Metroplex is now investing money on Mohawk Avenue in Scotia to help the businesses.
The facade project.
Right, and this, if they closing this post office, will be harmful to the village.
It will. We're really investing in the facade program. It's a beautiful village. A couple of the businesses wanted to make new investments to give their businesses a little bit of a facelift. That's what we've done through Metroplex. And when you look at this building, it's not only a beautiful building, it also is historically significant.
Right. So I think its value stretches beyond the community in the village. It's of critical importance to the village, but to the people in the surrounding areas. I mean, I know businesses up Sacandaga Road and residents in my neighborhood, which is over about 150 homes, and this is their post office.
Susan, I sense a slice of Americana here,
Right.
where
That's
people
exactly what it is.
speak to small town values. They speak to the services that are provided along the stretch of Mohawk Avenue within the cluster of other streets here in the village of Scotia. And this is a standalone example where if this alternative is not available, there's a degree of hardship, inconvenience, ineffective use of energy to transport to the next available spot, hardship on businesses that are going to choose perhaps something other than the postal system to utilize for their services. So it's volume down for the post office, increased cost for the small business. We're hearing a cluster of activity and thinking here that just speaks to keeping the Scotia office open, the postal office open.
It's really important. It's really been my privilege to represent the village of Scotia in the county legislature for the past 12 years. And when you understand Scotia, you know that it's a very tight-knit community. And it represents really the Main Street feel. We hope that the representatives of the post office will be able to listen to the people who have been here today. And as we pointed out, we didn't ask any of these people to come. They saw us here and wanted to be a part of it because they wanted to be able to convey how important it is to our community. And we hope that you'll understand the sense of community that we have here, all the vital services that people in this village can take part in, the restaurants, the library, the parks. All of those things are very important, but one of the very important components is the post office. It sort of ties all those things together. This is a main street, this is a village, and the post office is very much an important part of this community. It isn't a glass and steel box. It's architecturally important, and it would leave a very big void in the community, but also in our streetscape. And so I want to thank you, Paul.
My pleasure.
I know that you'll do a great job helping us to make this case, and we hope that this video will give people in Washington a sense of what this community is all about.
Yeah.